All right, hello, what is up? Today we're going to be doing another dark chocolate review, but this one's going to be a little special because this is actually somewhat of a challenge that someone posted me during my last dark chocolate review, which was tea 100% dark chocolate bar. I mean, I've eaten Lindt before, but definitely haven't ever tried 100% dark chocolate, so I'm really curious how it's going to taste. I'm gonna guess it's going to be extremely bitter. Uh, and just a little hard to chew and swallow, but I don't know, let's see. It is open. My sister tried a little bit, but I want to try a little bit for myself. It's got kind of a unique packaging, actually, because it's usually in like a foil, but this is actually kind of in a tray. I guess that's kind of interesting. Now, as far as I'm aware, you're not really supposed to eat these raw. Like, they're usually supposed to be used for baking or something like that, but I don't know. I mean, I guess this is a bar, so we can give it a try and see how it tastes. All right, bottoms up. Okay, that tastes. It's not like the type of bitterness that I was expecting, but yeah, it is completely bitter. Oh my gosh. It is hard to chew and swallow, to be honest. It doesn't, to be honest, it doesn't actually taste that bad. But you don't actually taste a lot of chocolate, which I guess is kind of strange. Like, it just tastes like pure bitterness. Um, there's only like now that I'm kind of swallowing it at the end, I kind of get some chocolate flavor, but I don't know. That's really weird. I don't know what I'm going to do with the rest of this bar. Maybe we'll use it for baking because I'm definitely not going to eat that ever again like that. But yeah, I don't know if you're into 100% bars. I mean, so it is what it is. I wouldn't recommend Lindt though, actually, because I know I've mentioned this before, but I don't know if you can see that well, if it's going to focus or if I'm even honing on the camera properly. But it says that its chocolate is processed with alkali. I'm not sure why Lindt does this. They only don't do this on the 85% bars, but they do it on the 90% and the 100%. But if you're not aware, having your cocoa powder or whatever processed with alkali, that's basically the same thing as Dutch processing, and it just destroys the flavonoids and a lot of the healthy ingredients that chocolate brings. Um, so I recommend, when you're looking, and you can always see this in the ingredients list, but make sure it does not say, Dutch processing or processed with alkali. Um, Again, the 85% bar seems to be fine, but 90%, 100%, and I think even 95% says that. So, but yeah, anyways, I think that was an interesting bar to try. And hello again. It's obviously been some time since I ate that 100% dark chocolate. It actually took some time to get that out of my mouth, so the bitterness just kept going on for a bit. Can't say that's my thing. Glad that's over with. I mean, if you like 100%, then maybe Lindt is the way to go. I got nothing to say in terms of the recommendation, other than to me it just felt like swallowing raw bitterness, but to each their own. Anyways, I wanted to try to extend this challenge into the start of a new series that I want to delve into. Now, if you know me, I used to blog a lot on my website and on Instagram, but I want to try something new, and I feel like video content would be really fun and exciting, engaging, and just trying out a new muscle there. A lot of the concepts that I'll talk about here are going to be very similar to what I wrote about, particularly health, happiness, productivity. But again, I think this will be a lot more fun. It will certainly be a little unstructured, almost a little vloggy at times. I'll have other videos where I can do like book reviews. And of course, I'll still do dark chocolate reviews, so no need to worry there. But yeah, I plan to stick to this for a while, so I'm really curious to see how it goes. I feel like it'd be appropriate to start the series with the videos on certain lessons that I learned from my time during quarantine and during the pandemic. Obviously, the situation for the past year has had a huge impact on our lives, our lifestyles, and our daily habits and routines. Some of them for better, and honestly for myself, some of them for worse. So given that, I think it would be really fun to sort of reflect on that experience and see what kind of lessons can be taken away from it. So to start off, I think one of the main things that affected me a lot during this whole time was distractibility. I used to be laser focused on certain routines that I had during the day and setting aside periods of time to work on something. But honestly, right when quarantine started, it's almost instantaneous that I just lost a lot of my motivation for those things and classes and the like. And instead of using that as an opportunity to sort of reprioritize my goals to see what actually matters for me, I ended up just letting myself slip on a lot of those routines and habits and losing that focus and just wasting time on social media, binging shows and whatnot. Not like any of those things are obviously bad by themselves, especially during a time like that, but it's very interesting for me to look back and see just how distracted I sort of became. And I think what was really interesting was that I initially assumed that this was a product of me having developed or formed poor habits. And because of that diagnosis, I immediately turned to those habit forming books that I always used to read and went around into mapping my environment and implementing all sorts of techniques so that I can cut away with all of these unproductive things that I was doing throughout the day. But interestingly enough, I found that even though I would be able to cut out a lot of things, I would find myself distracted with another thing in its place. Literally just anything that I could sink time into and have somewhat of an interest in, I would just do it. And whenever I sort of accomplished that goal or what I wanted to get out of it, I would just end up regressing back to a lot of those distracting activities that I was trying to avoid to begin with. Especially because I would find that what I was sinking my time into wouldn't actually end up really being that satisfying. But I think now, when I look back and think of it from a deeper perspective, the issue wasn't that I had developed poor habits. It was that I wasn't even distracted at all. This was crystallized for me with the book that I've been reading right now called Indistractable by Nir Eyal. One of the main definitions provided in the start of the book is what actually is a distraction. Essentially, we have two sides of a coin here. One is distraction, which are the activities and things that pull you away from the things that you want to do, while traction on the other side are the things that push you towards your goals and who you want to become. Now that may seem really, really obvious, but I think for me it just sort of clicked something inside of me where I realized that I'd spent all my time focusing on all these things that I felt were pulling me away from what I wanted to do, when I hadn't actually defined the other side of the coin in terms of what I actually did want to do, become, and achieve. So while I had labeled activities as distracting or unproductive and focused on cutting them out, all I did was create a gap in my time that would just be filled by something else that ultimately would build up to another distracting behavior. In fact, I started to wonder if I should really define them as distractions at all, if I didn't really have anything that they were distracting me from. And I realized then how important it is to define your goals, who you want to become and what you want to achieve, because only then can you really define why you're cutting out a lot of these unproductive behaviors. There's a really good intersection of this topic that I heard from the Minimalist podcasts when they had their guest Ramit Sethi. I'll link the episode down below, but the main segment that caught my attention was when Ramit was talking about our common points of view when it comes to food and money. Particularly, he focuses on how easy it is for us to focus on the things that we shouldn't be doing, and thus judge and criticize ourselves negatively, thinking that we should just avoid those things. For example, saying things like, oh, I shouldn't be eating carbs, I shouldn't be eating dessert, avoiding sugar and all pasta and all of these things. But we find out when we focus on cutting that we never actually find something to replace that in a sustainable and healthy manner. Instead, Ramit suggests to dial in the important things first. For example, you can focus on filling your plate with the healthy options first, like lean protein, fibers, and complex carbs, and then you naturally have less space to fill up with the things that you feel like you shouldn't be eating. Same thing with money. If you define your actual spending goals and what you're trying to save for, you end up not frivolously spending your money on things that you didn't even really want in the first place. And the important thing at the end of the day is that you remain guilt-free no matter what you're really doing, because you know you dialed in those core good things that you needed to do. I thought this was really interesting because I think this concept applies similarly to time. We can constantly judge ourselves on how we should be spending our time and the things that we need to be cutting out as unproductive or unhealthy. But the tricky thing here is that although you can cut out food and just eat less or just save more money, with time you're always spending it no matter what, and it's constantly rolling away. So if you decide to cut something, you're put in an immediate position where you have to find something else to replace it. Instead, I think it's way more productive to start with what you actually do want to accomplish. Whether it's in a day, a week, a month, even a year, you defining those goals, analyzing how much time you'll need to spend on them, putting them on your calendar and tracking them appropriately, is a natural way to fill up your time with the essential things that you want to make sure to do. And with that time allocated in the day, you find yourself having much less time to just nod off with Netflix or scrolling through social media. Now, obviously there's way more when it comes to actually becoming focused and not distractible as you're working. That's something that I definitely want to cover with the lessons that I've been picking up from Indistractable, and really want to do a thorough video on. And actually, if that type of content seems interesting, let me know down in the comments or by clicking the like button, and I'll make sure to prioritize that type of video as soon as possible. But nonetheless, the point here is that any sort of tactics or plans to try to cut out negative behavior isn't going to work if you actually define what positive behavior is to you. And again, this could totally be anything. If you really want to define, binging some show as what you want to do, please do so. But the point here is to actually define those things in the first place, so you feel less guilty about what you think is unproductive, and so you have an understanding of what things you're actually becoming distracted from. And I also just think starting off with your goals just comes into this place of imagination, growth, and learning, and it's just way more inspiring and motivation. So again, I think the lesson that I took away from this is that instead of trying to dive into what activities that I feel are unproductive or negative, and then trying to just cut them out throughout the day, I need to instead focus on what are the things that I actually want to do with my time and try to accomplish with that. And from there, I can work backwards into cutting out the negative behavior. So anyways, I hope that experience and what I gained from it was interesting, or at least helpful to you. If so, please discuss your experiences down in the comments below. I'd really be curious to know what sort of similar experiences you may have had and what insights you took from that. Again, leave a like on the video if you enjoyed. Stay subscribed if you want to tune in for more videos for the future that I've planned. But otherwise, I will see you on the next video.